You ever find yourself in a weird corner of the internet that's somehow super calming and also weirdly educational? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to deconstruct a script for an animated kids video that teaches science, but through ASMR. The experiment itself is a classic, a rain cloud in a jar. But the way they do it, it's something else entirely. So let's break down how this whole genre actually works. Right off the bat, to get the vibe, just listen to this opening line from the script. That whispery, kind of gently tone, that's the whole point. This isn't about big, loud, exciting science explosions. Nope. This is all about creating a calm, immersive, almost meditative experience from the very first second. So, how in the world do they create that feeling? Before we get into the how, let's actually define what we're even talking about here. What is ASMR science? Okay, so at its core, this thing is a hybrid. It's taking all the key tricks from ASMR, the whispering, the soft sounds, the slow movements that can give some people that pleasant, tingly feeling, and it's mashing them together with hands-on science. The goal here is really two things at once. Teach a kid a concept, but do it in a way that actually calms them down instead of hyping them up. So for this explainer, we're zooming in on one specific script. It comes from a fictional channel, SparkQuarkKids, and it's aimed at kids roughly in that 6 to 12 age range. By picking the script apart piece by piece, we can really see the blueprint for how these totally unique videos are built from the ground up. All right, so how do they actually engineer this feeling of calm? Because it's not just about whispering. Turns out the script follows a very, very specific sensory recipe, focusing first on the ASMR half of the whole equation. And listen, none of this is by accident. The script explicitly calls for a soothing, ASMR whispery tone, for gentle drips and slow, rhythmic pacing. Every single element you see here is deliberately chosen to work together, creating this little sensory bubble of relaxation. It's a full-on audio-visual strategy, designed to just lower the temperature on a kid's busy mind. And this slide right here, this is where it really clicks. A typical kid's science show is all about high energy, right? Fast cuts, loud sounds, anything to grab and hold their attention through sheer excitement. ASMR science is the literal opposite. The entire goal is to calm and unwind with slow, mesmerizing visuals. It's less Bill Nye the science guy and way more Bob Ross the science calm. It's just designed for a completely different kind of learning moment. Okay, so we've got the calm part down, for sure. But what about the science? Let's flip over to the educational side and see how a pretty complex topic like, weather, gets broken down and taught in this super gentle format. The experiment itself is so simple, it's beautiful, but you gotta pay attention to the language they use. It's not a rigid procedure. It's presented like a creative act. You build a cloud. You add sky tiers. The wording is designed to make science feel less like a test you can fail and a lot more like an art project you get to explore. But how do they explain the actual science behind it? Well, the script calls this part the hushed why. And what's so fascinating is how it just sidesteps complex terminology. Instead, it uses this simple physical metaphor. The water squeezes the cloud and gravity gives it a gentle nudge. It completely transforms a scientific principle into this intuitive, story-like action. It's pretty genius. And this one quote from the script, man, it just perfectly sums up the entire philosophy. It explicitly names the scientific concepts, evaporation and condensation, but then immediately reframes them as nature's lullaby. Science isn't presented as some sterile fact, but as this comforting, natural story you can literally bottle up for bedtime. Okay, so we have the calm, sensory experience on one hand, and we've got the simplified, story-driven science on the other. For our final section, let's bring it all together. What's the intended effect of this combination, and what does it really tell us about the goals of this kind of content? When you look at the script, a really clear dual purpose pops out. This isn't just an educational tool, it's being sold as a mindfulness activity. You see phrases like melt your worries away and personalize your peace, which shows you this is just as much about emotional regulation as it is about learning. The experiment becomes a mini Zen garden, a tool for both curiosity and calm. And what I find absolutely fascinating is that this branding, this whole vibe, extends even to the call to action at the end. There's no smash that subscribe button. Instead, it asks viewers to like softly and subscribe for 3 new calms daily. It's just this incredibly consistent and really media-savvy strategy that never, ever breaks character. So this script for a rain cloud in a jar is way more than just a cute idea. It's really a blueprint for a whole new kind of children's content, one that deliberately fuses education with wellness. And, it leaves us with a pretty big question. In an increasingly overstimulated digital world, is this blend of mindfulness and media the actual future of how kids learn online?